A Hunter in Teyvat, Chapter 61, Fan Fiction, by Azazyel. Even in the fantasy land of Teyvat, filling out a police report was just as much of a hassle as back on Earth, at least in America, where I grew up. I mean seriously, if I have to be punished with half an hour of paperwork and worthless questions about the drunk man streaking through my backyard that got caught and fully stuck after knocking over our clothesline and falling into a hammock for the police to extricate him from, I should just have the neighbors instead call the police. Ugh, Paimon hates official questioning. Makes Paimon feel like we were the ones who did something wrong. Paimon grumbled, pouting as she was the first to join me outside of the separate offices in which my other girls were being questioned. Or more like whoever was questioning Paimon just threw their hands up at how Paimon both let out too much information and nothing of worth at all, and just ended up confusing the man. It's all right. That's just how society works. I shrugged as I patted Paimon on her head, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw Yelan walk deeper into the detention center through a different hallway that the factory agent was taken through when we entered. A couple of minutes later, Eula stepped out of her own office and made a beeline towards me and Paimon. Humph, the impertinence in suggesting we captured the factory agent and paraded him around as a form of showboating. I will have vengeance for this insult. Eula muttered vindicatively as she all but threw herself into the chair beside me, folded her arms over her chest, and folded a leg over the other, having it kick back and forth to bleed off her irritation. Testing and bugging you is how agents of the law get under your skin, Eula, I said dryly. For a second, I wondered how she didn't know about this from Mondstadt, but then remembered with her being a Lawrence clan member that there was no way in hell the Knights would have her act as a civilian law keeper, as the people would lose their shit at the sight of her a Lawrence clan member taking of their own to jail. Before Eula could snap back a response, the door of the office in which Lumen was in cracked open as Lumen stepped out of it with a calm and bored expression. We are all done. Good, let's go kill that Geovashap without Yelan as a guild commission rather than a Liyue official mission. Lumen spoke, and my eyebrow raised up in interest at Lumen's change of heart. After we left the detention center and quickly went to the guild with Lumen and Paimon, a little scared at seeing the Catherine there, that recognized them, and all we got the guild version of the mission to deal with the Geovashap. You guys noticed the signboard with a lot of high-level missions, right? Why aren't the vision wielders of Liyue taking care of the high-level missions? I asked aloud, as Mondstadt didn't really have such issues. But it was Eula who answered my errant thought. Almost all the vision wielders of Liyue are tied to the government in some way, as they and other supernatural beings are much more regulated by the Liyue Qixing in comparison to how the Knights handle them in Mondstadt. Also, the local government doesn't like highly dangerous adventurers getting influential outside of their highly regimented system. Eula explained softly. I had to concur, as I couldn't think of a single playable, adventure guild member in Liyue in comparison to Mondstadt that had like half a dozen. Maybe this was how Liyue was trying to have us integrate by getting us used to taking on their missions. Either way. Jake, please summon the Anemo hypostasis so we can get to the last known location of the Geovashap. Lumen spoke as she was looking around. I too could feel a sort of weighted gaze upon us, which made sense as we did literally parade an enemy of the state through the streets, and almost an hour had passed by then, so plenty of time had passed for the gossip to spread. I led us to a small park area in the city so I could safely summon my Anemo hypostasis, and with a flourish, the diamond-shaped elemental being created the arrow-shaped pod for us to climb into, for it to take us through the skies as quickly as possible. Hee Paimon bets Yelan is going to be super mad. We are going off on our own, Paimon spoke with a wry giggle, but even she knew we couldn't let people walk over us or otherwise try to pigeonhole us into a certain role, despite Lumen and I seemingly being a magnet for trouble. She will be fine. If anything, she will only laugh and be happy she didn't need to overwork herself. I spoke, rolling my eyes as our pseudoplane flew over Liyue's grand and beautiful landscape faster than any beings other than gods and perhaps the Adepti could match. Jake, you seemed so sure that the factory are going to pull something when you mentioned the rite of dissension. Any thoughts, or want to explain how you got that feeling? Lumen asked, and I shrugged as I spoke. Softly. Lumen with the Fatui being after the gnosis of the Archons, I am sure they must have their hands in the pies of all the nations as it were. From Mondstadt to here in Liyue, and I guarantee you that if we head to Inazuma, we will find them there as well, despite the nation being on lockdown and surrounded by a terrible storm. I spoke wryly before shaking my head. Just like in Mondstadt, they will take the path of least resistance in getting said gnosis, and if they cannot get it through more legitimate ways, well, just like in Mondstadt, they will attack the Archon despite how stupid such a thing is. Granted, Eula was outside the city when that battle happened, but she killed a literal small army of Fatui agents that attempted to push into the city, as there weren't enough Sisson mages to teleport the soldiers indirectly. But she knew everything that had happened in Mondstadt, and the only secret we hadn't shared with her yet was how we were foreign to Teyvat itself. As it wasn't all that important. What are the Fatui even doing with these gnosis anyway? Eula asked aloud, and none of us could answer despite my suspicions that it had something to do with Celestia, but I had no clue. Whoa, the Geovishap thingy is huge. Paimon yelled as we approached the last seen area of the being, and we didn't need to search for it as the thrice as large as an elephant, Earth Dragon was proudly standing on the edge of a nearby mountain and staring towards the southwest of Liyue in the direction of the chasm. Actually, was he even looking at the chasm? Or was he possibly looking towards his king? The seal for Azazyel was not far at all from here, as I could see the overloaded elementally attuned tree that grew from his sealed cage. Being able to drop a couple of ruin graders on Dvalin to temporarily pin him was one thing, but Azazyel, the king of all Geovishaps and the Geo-Archon's partner during the Archon War, was another thing altogether. I just hope my fears that someone or something is tampering with the seal early before Zhongli's story quest is supposed to take place is a fantasy. Otherwise, I'm literally going to flee with my girls. No way in hell am I fighting Azazyel, a god in his own right, and also being driven insane by the world's erosion when he is freed.